PartII 360 TV proudly presents Messages of Inspirational Stories, broadcasting and live streaming to millions of devices around the world, including Roku, and live streaming to Facebook Live. Also on Amazon Fire TV and to Twitch. Also Android TV and Periscope. Broadcasting to Apple TV and YouTube Live. Proudly brought to you by our host, Donna Guinois, producer and host, Michaela Vidal, host and administrator, and Jim Grant, producer and host. Proudly brought to you by the 6minutewebinar.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Messages of Inspirational Stories. Jim, how are you today?
I'm doing awful, but thank you so much for asking. I'm doing real good, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. And you know, Donna and I, last week we had a lot of fun doing the old sayings and the definitions and things of this nature. And we decided to carry it on this week. And next week, we're going to get into the Roaring Twenties. And the reason why, when 2022 kicked off, we had our New Year's show was anchored in the good news that you need a New Year's revolution.
Absolutely.
And Donna, when we look back at the Roaring Twenties, right prior to that, they had some tough times back then too, didn't they?
You know, it's in the history books, but who's counting?
Yeah.
Yeah, they certainly did. And the thing is that they learned from that. They were ready to go and grow. They were ready to get out of where they had been and go into fun and thrive.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
you know, we are there right now. We are literally there right now. There is so much trouble and so many, just quite frankly, ugly things going on in the world that it's, you know, time to focus on ourselves.
Yeah, because a lot of things that's going on in the world, we can't control anyway, but we can control how it will affect our attitudes, our minds, and our way of thinking and our lifestyle. Because back in 1914, the Archduke, Ferdinand, can't remember his last name, Fernandez, whatever, him and his wife were assassinated. That was the catalyst that started World War I. Okay? Franz Ferdinand was his name, thank you. And I say thank you to my brain because I appreciate when it answers to me, you know. But also too, after World War I ended in 1917, there was the Spanish flu.
I believe it killed around 50 million people.
Yes, it did.
Mainly in Europe.
Yeah. But those people, you know, it was here in the States too, and people were living in fear, just like people are living in fear today because of COVID-19 and have been for a couple of years now. I mean, it started in 2020, we got 2021, now we're in 2022. I mean, you know, goodness. So, you know, what happened back then, people had seen all the death and doom and gloom, and they saw that, you know, those that survived says, hey, this is a time for us to thrive. This is a time for us to enjoy the abundance of life. And the Roaring Twenties were exactly that. People started, they walked to the beat of their own swagger. How would you like to do that? Walk to the beat of your own swagger. I'm not talking about puffed up pride. I'm talking about I'm going to free myself mentally from this prison I've been in. I'm not going to worry about COVID. I'm not going to worry about the things of this world. I'm going to love myself so much that I'm just going to take care of myself and I'm going to bless others. And those that have wronged me, I'm just going to forgive them and let them go.
Right.
because nobody's going to break my stride. Nobody's
Absolutely.
going to hold me down. Oh, no. I think it was a song, wasn't it? Wasn't it
No.
Matthew? Somebody sing that song. If not, Donna, you go ahead and sing it for us. I'll listen.
We'll just do a big pass on that, Jim.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, she didn't want to. She did not want to embarrass the original artist on it. That's why, because her voice is so good.
Oh, good as in really bad.
Well,
I
don't you
don't
know?
sing well.
In the '60s, bad was good.
I don't sing well, folks. Just not my thing.
I hear you. We got to have a little fun here.
Absolutely. So, in our marquee, folks, we have our email up and would like to take a moment. If there is anything that that you would like to see us discuss, that you would like to see us talk about, if you have some family sayings that you would like to share that we haven't covered, that's really fun and unique, please get a hold of us at inspiration@e360tv.com, and one of our staff will get it to us. We want to hear from you.
We certainly do. And if you have, if you have a theme or something that would fit into motivating people and inspiring people and all that, please let us know.
Absolutely.
And we would love to have you on the show if you bring up a good theme and all that as a thank you. And if you're camera shy, that's okay. You can take my spot because they cut the camera off on me all the time. Oh my goodness, we are at it today. That old saying that we have said, and you have heard it said. It's been around for over 500 years. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And one person made a very interesting comment about that. He says, actually, that's a confusing statement when you put it like it. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Correct.
Okay, so you should change the words have and eat. So you can't eat your cake and have it too. I
Right.
never thought about that. He said that, or it was written. I guess it was he.
Right.
I don't know, but one person did. But that's so true because you cannot eat your cake and have it too. And
Correct.
it's just amazing how we tell that to teenagers a lot, don't we? Young kids.
Yes.
I heard it a lot all the way through
Oh,
my
yeah.
life. As a youth, teenager, I still hear it, I think.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. Well, what about this one, Jim?
Okay.
You are what you eat,
Oh, goodness.
right? So, we know that's true. If you eat healthy, your body gets the nutrients that it needs.
Mhm.
And if you don't eat healthy, well, then there's the bad side of that where you're not going to maybe be so healthy. But it's kind of interesting because the origin of the phrase of "you are what you eat."
Mhm.
Ready? It
I'm
was,
ready.
if I can pronounce some of these names, Anthelem Brilliant Cerverin,
Mhm.
and his version was, "Tell me what you eat, and I will tell you what you are."
Mhm.
You are what you eat has come into the English language by, by quite a meandering route.
Mhm.
So in 1826, the French lawyer Anthony Brilliant Savarin wrote it's in French, I can't translate it.
That's okay.
But anyway, he translated that. So I mean, this goes back a really, really long time.
Uh-huh.
Simply stating that the food one eats has a bearing on one's state of mind and their health, right? And we
Mhm.
know that today more than ever before, right? We absolutely know that.
Mhm.
So you are what you eat, though, emerged in English in the 1930s. And that's when the American nutritionist Victor Lindlar, who was a strong believer in the idea that food controls health,
Mhm.
developed the catabolic diet.
Mm.
So it goes back that far.
Hmm. That's
I
really
mean,
amazing. It really is. And Donna, whenever it comes to these old sayings and stuff, it's amazing how we continue to repeat them over and over and over. And
mhm.
one of the funny things, when you stop and think about it, how many times have we've all said it, ladies and gentlemen, at one time or another? I couldn't care less. You know?
Oh, right.
Now that's not really true, is it? Because,
No,
but we say it like that. I couldn't care less. We don't know. No one knows how long that thing's been around, but it's been around hundreds of years. But but say I couldn't care less. It is not true at all because if you didn't care, you wouldn't even mention it.
right. It wouldn't even be a thought.
Wouldn't even be a thought in your mind at all. And it's a classic phrase that frequently gets used very incorrectly. And when you say, I could care less or I couldn't care less, that means that you really do care. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. So, yeah, it's amazing, Don. It really is. I love these. I love doing this show, doing this here.
Well, I
This
do
is
too.
fun.
But it's just a yada yada, Jim.
Uh huh. Oh, yeah. Just a yada yada.
So that's a disparaging response, right? Indicating that something previously said was predictable,
Hmm.
repetitive, oh, well, I can't get that word out of my mouth today. Repetitive or tedious. There we go. Now my tongue's working. So the origin of this is a modern day equivalent of blah, 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 which is early 20th century. It is American and emerged during or just after the Second World War. It was preceded by various alternative forms, just all different kinds, yada, and I think in some kind of different languages. But the earliest of these that was found was from an advertisement back in 1948 of the Long Beach Independent.
Huh.
Yada, yada, yada. The talk is all about Chatterbox, Knox's own little tomboy cap with the young, come on look.
Mhm.
So all of these versions, right, go back. And the yada, yada itself was first found in 1970s.
Mhm.
Dory Previn released the album Mythical Kings.
Hmm.
And in March of 1971, which included the song Yada Yada La Scala.
Hmm. That's
So,
interesting. You're talking about that. Reminds me of the mid 1950s. The Coasters had a song, Yakety Sax, Don't Talk Back.
oh, I love that song still.
Oh yeah, that's a classic, isn't it? It
It's got
really
such a
is.
great beat.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it
It-
gets you up and moving,
oh yeah. Kind of like that Carole King song. I feel the earth move under my feet.
right?
And one of the funny things I came across was that how many times have you heard someone say they got off scot free?
Mm-hmm.
And when we say scot free, it implies to us that they should have paid something. They should either, if they were a convict or something or a criminal, they should be convicted of a crime, but they got off scot free or someone got away with something. That's what it
Right.
means. But actually, it's a very old world phrase that doesn't really mean that. People say this because they say it wrong because they think it's getting off like scot free or,
Right.
or you got away or you escaped the situation without harm or whatever. And it's hard to say where it really generated from. But the actual term getting off scot free, you got to ask yourself a question. What is a scot? SCOT. And it's basically the equivalent to a modern tax. Therefore, getting off scot free meant getting away tax free. So,
Interesting.
yeah, so I've gotten away scot free a couple of times.
Oh my goodness. Well, that would be if you're up to snuff.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you're up, I did it again. Yes, one for Donna. One for Donna. You're slipping, my friend.
I was
Okay.
deep in concentration on what I was going to try to say.
You were not. So, the meaning is literally sharp and in the know. More recently, up to the required standard.
Hmm.
But the origin, up to snuff, originated in the early 19th century. In 1811, the English playwright John Poole wrote Hamlet Travesty, a parody of Shakespeare in the style of Dr. Johnson and George Stevens, which included the expression, "He knows me well enough, the game we're after. Zoops, he's up to snuff." And he is up to snuff, that is, he is the knowing one.
That's
Now we know.
amazing.
Now
All
we
right.
know.
I'll
So,
tell you
of course,
something.
we
Yeah.
kind of think of snuff as chewing tobacco,
That's right. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
right? Nope, that is
You know,
not it.
back in the 30s and 40s, it was common for a person that had a farm to deliver butter and eggs and milk and whatnot. And they were known as the butter and egg man. But this has nothing to do with breakfast preferences. It's actually, according to in one dictionary, a wealthy but unsophisticated small town businessman who acts like a playboy when he's visiting a big city. That's what the phrase originally meant, a butter and egg man.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it really is. Because, I guess you could say he went there and buttered them up,
Right. Right. Well, I guess it'd be better than getting egged up.
Maybe they got egged if they got caught on their way out of town. But a
Right.
butter and egg man,
Right. Well, how many times have we said this to our children, especially when they were little, toddlers? Ups a daisy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's an old one. Of course, it just, helping a child encourage them to get up.
Mhm.
But the origin says it's difficult to choose which of the numerous variants of the expression to use as the heading of this piece. As with many words that are said to small children, it is more often a spoken term than one that appears in print. And this has led to much inconsistency about how it's spelt. So, I mean, it's oops-a-daisy, hops-a-daisy, ups-a-daisy. But the form, the first known printed record of any form of the term is Claude Robinson's The Dialect of Leeds and Its Neighbor, 1862.
Wow.
Ups-a-daisy, a common proclamation when a child in play is assisted in a spring leap from the ground. So, Jonathan Swift used this in his collection of letters, which was published in 1711 as the Journal to Stella. So I would say that goes back just a skosh.
Yeah, smidgen or two.
Yeah. Just a smidgen.
Have you ever, I know we've all heard the phrase and we've all said it, but it's always darkest before dawn.
Mm-hmm.
And I live out in the country, and it definitely is darker right before it gets dawn. It really is. But really, the real meaning of that, it's a great analogy. In fact, it's a great parable, because the analogy to that is that things will, what means is that if as things feel the worst, they always feel worse just before they turn for the better.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to expand on that some, when Napoleon Hill interviewed about 500 of the richest men when he's getting the information to write Think and Grow Rich, he didn't have a book by title, but he was just gathering information, trying to find what was the secret to success. He came about two common denominators each one of them had. Number one, as I've said before in the show, each one of them had a fantastic mother, a strong mother figure, a positive mother figure, And the second thing was, I get this, darkest before dawn, they had failed and failed and failed, but they didn't quit. They went one more step and success came.
Mm-hmm.
So it was darkest before it dawned on them. They understood what that means. And whatever, if you're going through some dark times right now, let me share some great news for you. I got an hour and a half of stuff for you. Let me find my, oh, here it is. Got to find this one book. Mr. Bill Heinrich's a friend of ours. This is a freebie from us. We're not getting paid one thin dime for this because he's our friend. The 7 Levels of Truth. His website is True Life Purpose Now. That's a picture of Mr. Bill there. He will give you a complimentary 30-minute consultation to help you what's going on in your life, what's blocking you. Because Bill's all about, you see, we're born in the physical, we're born into a world of survival, and that's where a lot of people get stuck.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where people live most of their lives. It's perfectly normal, it's perfectly natural, it's perfectly human, but it's also perfectly wrong. Because everything in the physical, it's limited to planet Earth. We are spiritual beings, and we're not limited to planet Earth. We may be while we're inside this robe of flesh, so to speak, but
Right.
we have the prerogative right now. Notice I said the prerogative. You have the power right now. I don't care what your situation is. You have the power right now to love yourself. Forgive yourself for anything you've ever done in your life that maybe you regret saying or you hurt somebody or whatever. Forgive yourself of that. Try to make amends with the person if you can, but if you can't, forgive yourself and let it go. And that's when you step out into the abundance of living.
Right.
The abundance of life, a lot of people think it has to do with material things and riches and all that. It's a small part of it, but it comes in at the rear.
Right.
The true abundance of life is having a peace of mind, having a purity in your heart, being able to lie down in bed at night and go to sleep and sleep good.
Mm-hmm.
And provided you didn't eat too much or, anything like that, but you know what I mean. But I mean, it's very, very important. Plus the fact that's just one 30-minute. The second 30-minute is sitting to my right beside me here. And her name is Donna Guinois. And Donna, you can email her at highenergyrightnow@gmail.com. I'm going to let her push all the buttons there because
I'm trying to find it.
Okay. I wouldn't know if she had it or not because without my glasses, I can't read and I can't see it to read. But she will be more than happy to share with you a complimentary 30 minutes of what is blocking your energy. So you got Mr. Bill Heinrich over here. You got Donna Guinois there. And I'm going to come back to Donna in just a moment, let her expand a little bit on that. But also, too, they're on YouTube. There is a YouTube video about 32 minutes long, The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. He's going to talk more about this thing, about what I just mentioned earlier, about love yourself, being in abundance. And, he says something on there. When I first heard it, I thought, that can't be true. Once you ask for something, it's already yours. The universe cannot deny it.
Right.
Whoa. So, I mean, and you can afford it too. I don't care how poor you are. Because all you got to do, once you love yourself, you're rich in the spirit. And Donna, she created her course, and she's going to give you a complimentary 30 minutes. But she did it to help her in her hour of need. And then she realized, hey, I didn't go through this just for my own experience to help me. I need to share what I found that helped me to help others in their hour of need. And Donna, would you share that with them, please?
Absolutely. So, through a lot of trials and tribulations, we all have them. I found an amazing process that I put into high energy performance coaching. And that's what I do. I help people find where they're stuck. And being stuck usually is a person, a place, or a thing or a combination thereof. And we oftentimes don't even know it. Or if we do know it, we don't know how to get past it. We don't know the steps to take. And that's where I come into play. I would love to help you. Just email me at highenergyrightnow@gmail.com and we will schedule some time together, 30 minutes to help you be the best version of yourself you can be.
Absolutely. Because that's important, because this is what our show's about. Because let's be honest. I could sit down here and I said, Jim, you need to do this and you need to do that. And I can fill in the blanks. Notice I said blanks
Right.
because I have a lot of things I need to do and have a lot of things I need to stop doing. But you know what? What really attracts me is being able to do the things that I want to do.
Mhm.
And you want to be able to free yourself of these afflictions and these things that grind at you. And you have every right to have the love and abundance of the universe, because that is a gift to you from the creator of the universe. There is no man, there is no government, there is no dictator, there is no one that can legislate, regulate, and strangulate you from that right. That is your God-given right, if I can put it like that. It really
Absolutely.
is. And no one can take that from you. Even a criminal that breaks into your house and steals everything you got, they cannot steal that. That's how precious that gift is. So take advantage of that. I know that might be a little hard for someone to, get their minds around, saying, well, loving myself, it's kind of hard. We'll try it. And try forgiving yourself. And the best way to do that is just start giving thanks for what you have. Start with the heartbeat in your veins and the breath in your lungs. I know how important heartbeat in the veins is, you might say. I went to night school on that one.
Well, and one of the best ways to really be able to work on loving yourself, and this is hard for a lot of people, but you need to write yourself a note and you need to read it every day. And then when you get comfortable with that, look in the mirror. And in the morning when you're getting ready, say, I love you. I love you. Because you're looking right back at yourself.
That's
and you
right.
keep practicing and you keep doing it and it becomes natural. And honestly, the love and the power of that just comes into your body. And pretty soon you're sitting a little taller, you're walking a little with a little more pep in your step. Yep.
Absolutely. Because when you're looking in the mirror, you're training your brain that the old person is going to fade away, because the old person is stuck in the physical. We
Right.
want you to live into the future, into a love and abundance, because that is a gift for you. That is the reason why you were actually created and put on planet Earth. Because why weren't you born 100 years before? You were,
Right. Right.
I know why I wasn't born 100 years before. I was. I know that. I really do. They had to have no remotes, no batteries.
Oh dear. Well, Jim,
What can I
you
say?
you can talk about that all you want till the cows come home.
What does that expression mean? Till the cows come home?
Well,
No, it
for a
means.
long but indefinite time. But this is really kind of cool. The origins, right? I mean, this is what just blows me and Jim away. The precise time and place of this coining of this phrase isn't quite known, but it's a long-standing expression, and the earliest example of it in print comes from the late 16th century. John Eliot used it in Orthoepia Gallica, 1593, which was a French teaching textbook in which he attempted to teach to speak truly, speedily and volubly the French tongue. I
Hmm.
am tied by the foot till the cows come home.
Wow. Hmm. That's
So,
interesting.
yeah, so that's really kind of interesting. Groucho Marx was never one to pass up an opportunity for a play on words. So,
Hmm.
like this dialogue of, 1933 Duck Soup, he was talking about, I could dance with you till the cows come home. Better still, I'll dance with the cows and you come home. So
Oh
this
yeah.
is, I mean, this goes back, a long way, but the actual
Yeah.
origin of it isn't truly known.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell you, it's really amazing. And I got something that's good. I think you'll find amazing here, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever heard this expression that went over like a lead balloon or something like that?
Oh, good gravy, yes.
Yeah. It got its original start. The US version of this phrase, go over like a lead balloon or went over like a lead balloon, first appeared in the Mom and Pop cartoon in several newspapers in 1924. It fell out of popularity until about World War II, but it was that expression that is inspired a certain heavy metal band to name themselves Led Zeppelin.
Oh my gosh.
They spell it LED, Zeppelin. Well, that's, it's amazing because why would they call the first name LED, LED?
Right.
And yeah, that's where it came from. That was the idea behind it. Lead balloon. Let's call it Led Zeppelin. Where come? That's Bachman Turner Overdrive there about coming to your town. But anyway,
That's funny.
I'm having fun today, Donna. I'm just having
That's,
fun today.
I did not know that about Led Zeppelin.
Hmm. Yeah,
I,
I didn't
I
know that either. Mm-mm.
honestly, can I get a word in edgewise?
Go right ahead. I don't care.
He's a little sharper now that I got him in the beginning of the show.
Well,
So,
she keeps kicking me under the table, so I better. My
it's
shin's gonna
joining
be
a,
black and blue.
yeah, you'll be fine. You've
That's
got
right.
another leg. Quit whining. It's joining a conversation in which another is speaking continually and leaving little opportunity for others. Okay. So the origin, it's a word. A word in Edgewise is a 19th century expression that was coined in the UK. Edgewise just means proceeding edge first. Okay. The allusion in the phrase is to edging sideways through a crowd, seeking small gaps in which to proceed through the throng. So it was first used in the 17th century in nautical terms. So it goes back into that. And then it says here that Captain John Smith's A General History of Virginia, New England, and the Summer Isles of 1624. So that has a few years on it.
Oh, it sure does. And did you ever hear that expression, goody two shoes, Mr. Goody Two Shoes?
Yes.
I
Well, don't they
remember
just think?
I remember growing up, one of my buddies, he was out there and he was on a dirt road and this car come by, a guy from out of town, and he stopped and he asked him directions to where a place was, and little kid told him, and he had a shoe, had one shoe, and the guy looked at him and said, "What happened, son? Did you lose your other shoe?" He says, "No, sir, I found one."
Oh,
Because back in those days, I mean, after school was over, we all went barefooted in the
mhm,
country. Oh, that was fun. I remember our school year, we'd start out and everybody had new, Levi's or Wrangler pants, whatever, and had cuffs on them like this.
right,
And then by the end of the year, the pants had already had shrunk too, but we'd also grown, and they
right.
were about this much too short, and the ankles would be sticking out like hoe handles. So it was fun for me during the summertime to cut them off at the knees and have knee breeches and go barefooted. So that was my official summer wardrobe. But goody two shoes, I almost forgot. I got to get back to that. Good Two Shoes comes from a Christian retelling of Cinderella, a nursery tale named The History of Little Goody Two Shoes. It was first published in 1765. The poor orphan of the title only had one shoe, but is given two shoes by a rich man as a reward for her virtue. So that's
Wow.
where the term came from, goody two shoes. But we normally refer to that today as in a negative light, don't we?
Yeah, growing up, at least with my family,
Hmm.
it was um, it was said, especially with the ladies, as a very derogatory, and it was a way that they spoke back then, where they were not gossiping, but they were snubbing somebody and
Hmm.
telling you how they felt, right?
Yep.
Without being blatantly rude and just out there saying, well, I just really don't like them. I just think they're all, kind of conceited. They would
Hmm.
beat around the bush, so to speak.
Oh, yeah. She's trying to catch me. She's trying to catch me.
I really am. I really
Yeah.
am. But how about this one? The necessity is a mother of invention, Jim.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Difficult situations inspire ingenious solutions.
Hmm.
So the origin, it is not. It isn't really truly known. It is sometimes ascribed to Plato, and it does appear in translations of Plato's Republic. Um, but the phrase was. It wasn't until much later that the phrase was in common use in England and more likely to be the work of the translator than the being a literal version of Plato's words.
Hmm.
The proverb was known in England by the 16th century, although at that point it must have been known to very few, as it was then documented in its Latin form rather than in the English.
Hmm.
So it also says here that there was a book which was published in 1519. William Horman, the headmaster of Winchester and Eton, included Latin form of that in his book.
Hmm.
So that kind of goes back to England.
Wow.
Interesting.
It really is. And I'm really having a lot of fun with these sayings. And also, too, if you are a dog lover, I got invited. Well, the reason why they wanted me to, one reason I got invited, because the weather was bad, it was raining, and they wanted me to drive. So I'm a professional chauffeur. My wife and daughter was going to go see the movie Dog this past weekend, so I went. I really enjoyed that movie. And I wanted to share that with you because right here, one of the sponsors, it's a charity, nonprofit, Shelter to Soldier. They have a tremendous mission, and there may be someone out there that could take a mission like this to another level. They're all military personnel, and they go into the shelters and they get these dogs that are, well, they don't have much of a chance of getting adopted. Okay.
They're the
And
larger breeds
mhm,
that people often deem, there's a few of us
mhm,
that love the big dogs.
mhm,
But most people, when you're talking 120 plus pound on up,
mhm,
most people feel that that's just too big of a dog to have in their
mhm.
home.
Yeah. And they go in to get these dogs. These are, full size dogs, and they train them. And they're specially trained to work with someone that has PTSD. And so when a soldier who has been diagnosed with a PTSD, that is their service dog. They bring the soldier in, they set him down around several dogs that they think will probably be a good match, and they let the soldier and the dog let them take care of the process of selecting one another.
Right.
And the beauty in that is that every single person that has received a dog has not committed suicide. So 2 lives got saved there, and that's important. Now, you may see a need for dogs in, being able to go to, homes where people are maybe elderly or sick or shut in, to visit them, and they're not physically able. They may not have the finances or the physical ability to take care of a dog, but can you imagine taking a smaller dog in there that could really show them some love and compassion? And if you set it up where they have these visits ever so often, they will, maybe once a week, they would love that. And I know for a fact, Donna, they would thrive on that, wouldn't they?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Everybody would.
There's been a lot of studies done on people who are in, assisted care homes or nursing homes,
Mhm.
that type of thing, where maybe they don't have a lot of stimulation.
Mhm.
And when people bring in kittens and they
Mhm.
bring in dogs, and there are some large dogs too, because they'll just come and lay their head on their lap, right?
Mhm.
But there's
Yeah.
been study done on how it affects these people who may have been despondent, and all
Mhm.
of a sudden they have this little kitten or this pup,
Mhm.
and they're like, everything just brightens up,
Oh, yeah.
and they come alive, if you will.
Mm.
Hmm.
I'll tell you another thing you can do that separate and apart from an animal, and that is music. Think
Mm,
about that, because music has a way of resonating with us. And if you're driving down the road and a song comes on the radio and from your past 20, 30, 40 years ago, makes no difference, bang, you're back there.
right.
Because there's been many places where, and studies done, where people that suffer from Alzheimer's, they can't even tell you what day it is. They can't even tell you where they're at, but they listen to songs of their youth,
Mhm.
and they can tell you everything about what they were doing then. And
I
that's a
would.
wonderful thing too. Mhm.
It is. I witnessed that with my mother. So
Mhm.
my mother had and died of dementia,
Mm.
and it was interesting because she couldn't remember very much of 10 years ago, 5 years ago, yesterday. But you would ask her, "Hey, Mom, tell me about Uncle Jack." Boom, she was right there.
Oh yeah.
And
Mhm.
Uncle Jack died long before I was ever born. And so it was really interesting to try and help stimulate her, by
Mhm.
going back into yesteryear.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Oh
So,
yeah.
Jim, let me ask you, do you
Okay.
know where a nest egg came from?
No, but I know everybody needs one. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but um, this is kind of interesting. It was the illusion to putting a real or a china egg into a hen's nest to encourage her to lay.
Hmm.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So the connection between this and the savings meaning isn't exactly clear.
Mhm.
It is. It may be that the idea was that the egg that was put into the nest could be later retrieved after the hen had laid.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Um, right. So the practice of this, putting eggs into nests to get the hens to lay,
Mhm.
is recorded from as early as the 14th century.
Oh yeah. Because when we had chickens, I mean, we had them turned loose and all that, and we couldn't figure out where they're laying the eggs. And then I found it, and there was a big circle of eggs there.
A
And
clutch, big old clutch.
yeah, and the one in the center is the bullseye, you might say, is the oldest one.
Right.
And so I got a bag and ran home, got a bag, came back, picked them all up, put them in there, and my mother told me, says, you need to take one of them back and put it there. I said,
So she'll
why?
lay again,
They'll lay again. Otherwise, they'll figure a predator got those eggs, and then
and they'll
they'll
go to
go
another
somewhere
spot.
else. You can
Hmm.
use a golf ball for that. uh, they use that. They actually sell the plastic eggs for that. Kind of like little, you know, eggs for
Right.
that, where they sell, chicken feed and stuff like that. But yeah, that's a nicety to know there. And Donna, there was a sitcom back in the 90s, Saved by the Bell,
Oh
but
yeah.
it did not generate the phrase Saved by the Bell. Saved by the Bell is boxing slang, get my tongue going here, from the late 19th century. A boxer who is in danger of losing a bout could be saved from defeat by the bell that marks the end of a round. And those of us that know a little bit about boxing, we realize that at the Saved by the Bell, they get the boxer over. And sometimes they have rules where they cannot be saved by the bell or something like that. But Saved by the Bell, that's where it came from.
Well, that's because the camera can't lie, Jim.
That's right. Is this going to stop? Yes.
As soon as the show's over, brother.
Yep. No, she'll go on for another half an hour after the show. I know her.
So it's literal meaning that the camera cannot lie. But the origin is printed photographs began to be available to the general public around the mid-19th century. When this phrase was coined, which appears to be just a few years later, the view that a photograph was a faithful representation of a scene in a way that a subjective painting could never be was a reasonable one. After all, the images that fall on the photographic plate is precisely what the camera is pointing at. Phrases like photographic memory supported the view of photographs as precise and infallible records, right? So, we all know that, we take a picture on our camera and whatever we're doing, that's exactly what it takes. So it's very literal in meaning.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it says that the earliest citation of this that was found was in the Evening News in Lincoln, Nebraska, November of 1895, complete with an imitation of the early doubts about the literal truth of the phrase. Photographers, especially amateur photographers, will tell you that the camera cannot lie. This only proves that photographers, especially amateur photographers, for the dry plate, can fib as badly as a canvas on occasion.
That's amazing, I tell you. Hey, Donna, have you ever told anybody that when you're looking forward to an event, I'll be there with bells on?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And who shows up with bells on? Nobody. You may have a some
belly
bracelet or
dancer.
something. Oh, okay. What time's she coming? But you may have a few jingles and jangles there, But when it talks about "I'll be there with bells on," this actually the most accurate phrase information I can get on it. It was a phrase that was printed in F. Scott Fitzgerald's book, The Beautiful and the Damned, in 1922. And the phrase that's printed in there says, "All righty," as ALL-LL-LL righty, RIGHTY. I'll be there with bells on. That's where that phrase was credited to. F. Scott Fitzgerald, the writer. He's more commonly known for writing the book, The Great Gatsby.
Right.
There was a movie on that about 1974 with Robert Redford and...
No, I don't think it was Robert Redford.
Was it Paul Newman? I can look that up.
No, Jodie Foster was in it when she was a little girl.
The Great Gatsby?
I think so. And wasn't it Shirley MacLaine's brother?
You got me lying. I'm gonna do a little research here right now. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, because you're probably a carbon copy, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
So the term carbon copy derives from carbon paper, which is still occasionally, in use, right? But the phrase dates modern photocopiers. But even so, they use carbon. And oh my gosh, I remember my dad with the carbon copy and, the sheet of paper. And then you had the black sheet of carbon and the onion skin that went into it.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
So that goes back. It was first referred to in 1806 as carbonated paper by its inventor, Ralph Wedgwood, in the patent for his stylographic writer. Other forms of inked paper were also developed around the same time, some of them similar to what we would now recognize as a typewriter ribbon. Right? So, carbon copy, blind carbon copy, BCCs, all of that. But the first example of the use, carbon copy, that was found relates to Wedgwood's invention in the Burlington Hawkeye, May of 1878, written by J.L.W. and reprinted from the Chicago Post.
Wow. I just looked that up. The 1974 movie was Robert Redford as Jay Gatsby, and Mia Farrow played.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm going back because there's been other movies too, but I mean, another movie I think came out 1990 or something, or somewhere in there. But anyway, original was Robert Redford and Mia Farrow. And my goodness gracious, Donna, look at the time.
I know, we are almost out of time. We are seriously almost out of time, folks.
We really are. And folks, we've really enjoyed it. But most importantly, there's some things that we covered today that's, other than having some fun, but we talked a lot about loving yourself and how important that was. And we talked about how we, by serving others, we use the example of sheltertosoldier.org, the dog people, and how you could also help, others in their hour of need. If you wanted to have a dog or a kitty or something like that, go around to rest homes and things of this nature. We talked a little bit just briefly about music, how people can really connect to that. And Donna, we learned a few things, didn't we?
We did. We did. And I learned that if I come off really quickly, I can get you.
Yeah.
With the phrase.
Other times I get drugged from pillar to post.
Well, it's probably because cat's got your tongue.
There you go. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a lot of fun today, and we're really looking forward to tomorrow, Wednesday. That's the middle of the week, and we're going to have some more information for you. And we're going to also have some more motivational type things we can share with you, because that's important, because right now we need and we're craving some good news, something to look forward to, something to look past the doom and the gloom, just like the Roaring '20s, and that's coming next week.
Right. Well, we appreciate each and every one of you.
Yes.
And thank you on behalf of Jim and myself for tuning in and watching us each week, every day, wherever you are, whatever platform, because without you, we wouldn't be here.
You're
and
exactly
we thank
right.
you, honestly, from the bottom of our hearts.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.